All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the part-time adventurer, and Mark, the resident chef.
Hello there. Today, we're going to talk about movies that made a ton of money. The 50 that made the most money worldwide. But how are we going to talk about these, you ask? We're going to talk about the shittiest ones. The ones that we don't understand why they made this money. Did they deserve it? Did they do a good job? Or were these strategic cash grabs that are just garbage that nobody watches? The world may never know. Or we'll tell you about it.
Yeah, I think let's tell them about it. So we went through the list of 50 worldwide top-grossing movies and picked our five that I know I'm going by the movies that I just did not care for. You know, it's hey, great that they made money, but at the same time, I just don't understand how they did. But at the same time, there might be some hypocrisy where I totally understand why it made that much money, but I just don't like the movie. So fair to say. Any other deviation from that, Mark, on your list?
No, it's just like why is this on this list? Like when you look at the list, it's varied. There's more modern movies than older movies on it, obviously, because of distribution and things like that. But when you look at this movies, it's such a regal title. You expect us to see the best of the best. And really, I'm like, this isn't even something that, like, if I had to pick 500 DVDs to save and everything else just goes away, that I would pick. So yeah, that's the way I approached it. Desert Island.
Think you might be surprised with some of the picks on my list just because most of them are topics or movies that are just like, yeah, that should be in your wheelhouse. But I got a question for you: are there any like honorable mentions outside of the top 50, or maybe they were under the top 50, and you're just like, yeah, this one just it's not making my list of five, but I'll talk
Yeah.
shit about it.
Initially, when we talked about doing this podcast, we were debating between top 100 and top 50, and man, like that cutoff took some things away from me. Where I was like, oh, I really wanted to rail on this movie. I needed to make my standard Batman versus Superman complete, but that's number 81 overall in worldwide gross. I understand why it made that money, but fuck, they didn't deserve it. Also, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So excited for that to come out. And yeah, yeah, it was Crystal. Clear they just wanted to make a bunch of money. And the last one, why is this on this list for me? Was number 57, just missed the cut for me. And that was Minions Rise of Gru.
Yeah, right. A lot of kids watch movies apparently.
Like the original Despicable Me, I get it. It's been around for a while. It's played a lot, but like Rise of Gru? And I love the series. It's great. But man, don't get it. Don't get it. But those are my honorable don't watch mentions. What about you?
Anything Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh,
Just because I just don't care about those movies. So this isn't on my top of the list. I've only watched parts of, I think, two or three of them, and I don't know. I couldn't care less. The best thing that came from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies was The Lonely Island and Michael Bolton's song about Jack Sparrow.
honestly, I couldn't disagree with you more. That was one of the first like series that we got that made a large screen spectacle that launched Disney into doing things like Marvel. I thought the music from them were great, right? That Pirates theme, the bump, bump, bum, 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 it's just awesome, right? And
Have you heard The Lonely Island with Michael Bolton? Trumps all those.
oh, I
Trumps all of
celebrate I
them.
celebrate the Lonely Islands entire catalog. Um, you know, but I think that there's that I love those movies. The later ones were, they jumped the shark a little bit, but those aren't the ones in the top 100. And the ones that are in the top 100, I enjoyed very much.
And then, of course, I'll have to go with the Disney remakes of Beauty and the Beast in 2017 and Lion King 2019. I'm not a big fan of animation. I just felt that, like, yeah, I don't need to see these. I know it's not for me, and I completely respect the fact if you like those movies or you were a fan of the originals and you support the new ones, totally understand it. I know a lot of the comic book movies or even some of the other movies that I see aren't everyone's cup of tea. Totally understand that. I don't make fun of you if you do, but just not mine. And it's something that just missed out on my top five list. Those Disney remakes.
Do you want to just get right into it?
Let's do it. But speaking of those particular topics and subjects of film that I'm a big fan of, number five on my list is going to be a comic book movie, and
Ooh.
it is Aquaman with Jason Momoa.
Oh,
So Aquaman with Jason Momoa had a 6.8 and a 6.5, or 6.8 on IMDb, 6.5 on Rotten Tomatoes. I was entertained by the movie. I checked out very early on, and I was just like, let's just have fun with this. I've seen some really shitty DC movies. Let's just have fun and not expect much. And it was entertaining for me. So I liked it. I don't know if I could do it all day, but at the same time, it was just like, okay, I'll I'll enjoy this for what it is, but definitely kind of puzzling as to why it's in the top 50 for all-time grossing movies.
yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. My number five is not something I don't like, but some sequels that just don't make sense to me. And that's there's two. I'm lumping them together because they're in the same franchise. And
Oh,
that's
how dare you! How
yeah, I know
dare you!
that's Transformers Age of
Oh,
Extinction at
oof.
35 and Dark of the Moon at 33. I liked them as sequels. I've watched them. I really enjoyed the original Transformers, but going back to the well and telling some out there stories and getting in the top 50, they're not those movies, bro. It's not that movie, bro. Especially when you get to the one where well, all of these had Shia LaBeouf in them, right? Those
No,
two. Yeah, when you
no.
take out the main characters, it's how did they do it? I know that one of them was pandering to Asia, right? In the Asian market where they set a lot of it, but it's like, man, I'm just not there with it. I love the franchise, love the toys back in the day, but just can't do it.
So Age of Extinction was the one where Marky Mark came in. So Mark
Yes.
Wahlberg took over as the title character.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you said that because I actually had that as my number four. I thought you were talking about a different franchise. I'm wondering if it might come back
So
up.
I have
And let's
one more grouping that I want to rant about. But yeah,
Yeah, so I agree with Age of Extinction, and I'll lump in the third one, Dark of the Moon, because
yeah,
that movie was just so quick of an ending that one of the best parts of the Transformers series is like it's this Transformers movie when Linkin Park comes in at the end, and I'm a big fan of Linkin Park, R.I.P. Chester Bennington, but it just like quickly goes to a Linkin Park song. It's like, oh, the movie's over. Well, shit, that was like very anticlimactic. So that's kind of how I feel about that movie too.
but speaking of number four, a movie that I was not in uh at all, and I'm just like, why is this here? Um, because as much as I love the first one, and as much as I love the second one, the third one was fucking ponderous to me. And that's Iron Man 3. Number
Hmm.
25, I'm just like, no, we don't need this.
So you didn't like that movie?
I was not an Iron Man 3 fan.
Okay. All
As
right. Because
previous ranking shows will show, not my favorite.
okay. Because I totally understand why someone would say it's not deserving to be up there, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I enjoyed the movie. I might have been,
Yeah.
I know I'm in the minority, but you got a lot of stuff that was really good about that movie. I won't go into that. This is our list of, it's your pick. It's
Mhm.
our list of the worst in our opinions. So mine is going to go a little close to home for you,
Ooh.
and it is The Phantom Menace.
Oh, I
I
know
just
exactly why the Phantom Menace is there. I'm part of the reason I saw that in theaters like
I,
7 times.
I
I'm gonna
know
go
why
see
these
it like
movies made
this
money.
weekend for May the 4th. Spoilers on when we're recording this before May the 4th. But yeah, no. If I could do the whole marathon, I would, but I can't. But yeah, I might go see it in theaters again.
I get why it makes money. I just didn't like it. So that's all. That's all there is. Was it
That's it.
a bad movie? No, but out of the top 50, if I'm gonna pinpoint one, yeah, I'm definitely pinpointing that one.
I mean, you pinpointed that over The Last Jedi.
Did I say it was over The Last Jedi?
Oh,
Because
you
I'm not done with
didn't.
my list
You
yet.
didn't. It
I'm
sounds
not
like
done
you're
with my
just gonna.
list yet.
It sounds like you're just gonna rail on Star Wars, and I left it out for personal reasons. I left it out for personal reasons. For me, number three is a movie you already mentioned, which we knew there'd be crossover on these lists, which is why I left Star Wars out. But Aquaman, really, so many
Kind
stars
of.
that either like I love that Tamora Morrison was in it. I love Jason Momoa in that character, and that's all about all that I love. The premise.
Not didn't like Nicole
No.
Kidman. Nicole Kidman can do no wrong for me, so I'll
Yeah,
just
I mean Nicole Kidman was borderline like I'm okay with that. But then Willem Dafoe, no, he's the Hobgoblin. Just
what?
just stop.
He was he was fine in it. He was good in that movie. I liked him.
Mm, mm.
So
And then
apparently,
nothing with Amber Heard is ever good. So we could just she shit all over that movie.
uh, I will say I think I inaccurately said that Willem Dafoe died in the first Aquaman on our Aquaman 2 review, but apparently he didn't. I think he died off screen in the second one.
Yeah.
So, which makes number two even worse of a movie. So,
Luckily it's not in the top 50.
going on to number two for me, it is Avatar: Way of Water. Uh,
Oh,
I I watched the first Avatar in theaters. It was cool. It was a very visually stunning movie. James Cameron does really good work. If that came out first, I would have said the same thing. But it wasn't, we've already seen it. So I don't think that there was enough to really impress me. And so that's why it's kind of like lackluster. I think the story was fine. It's entertaining. It's a long movie. That's just on my list. Just
yeah.
don't care about Avatar.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. My number two is also a sequel to a movie that was that had a lot of popularity and also is just not something I'm riding with. And that's Frozen 2 is number 13. The fuck? In the 90s, that movie would have been a VHS release. What are we doing? I don't
Yeah,
get it.
I don't
I don't
disagree with
get it.
it.
Like I have a kid, he loves the first Frozen movie. He's in it. The music's great. It's catchy. Like I get it. Like I grew up in prime you know, Disney musicals with Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, all that stuff, right? But I'm just not there with Frozen 2. I'm just not.
I didn't really get captured or captivated by the sequel at all. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
I don't
First
even think
one,
it needed a sequel. Like, why? What you gave them the happily ever after? Move it right along. Move
yeah,
it right along.
Disney's got to do its thing, man.
I mean, they made a shitload of money on the box office and the toys and the whole thing, but man, it's just grr. Yeah, so many complaints I could make.
I did enjoy when I was a Disney annual pass holder. I did enjoy going to the Frozen sing along. I thought the cast did a very good job, but it was kind of cool. Even though I'm not into that movie, it was very cool to see full grown adults along with children sing their hearts out to that. Like, yeah, I could appreciate that people enjoy the movie. It's just not my cup of tea, but I totally understand why Frozen 2 would come into play just because I wasn't even impressed with that movie and I thought the first one was entertaining.
It's really funny you bring that up because I would probably argue that that ride, in quotes, is mostly music from the first Frozen movie and not from the second.
Oh yeah, that's 100%.
Doesn't deserve to be in the top 50. But speaking of that, I think that brings us, are we already at number one?
we're at number one. I think part of the reason why we're going so quick on this is the fact that I think we throw out so much negativity on things we don't like. I think we feel sorry for these movies, but also at the same time, it is like a top grossing list. So it's
Yeah,
like we
no.
can't shit on it too much. So I think
Yeah, the
that's kind of where
worst
I'm at.
movie in the top 50 made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no pity, no quarter. Just let it fly.
So what's your number one on your list?
Oh, I'm going. I'm going. So my number one is a grouping. It is a grouping, and it is some of them have already been mentioned. But I'm gonna say, as a group, all of the modern remake Disney movies are cash grabs and trash. And I'm going to list all of the ones I've gotten listed here, right? Starting with number 49, which is Alice in Wonderland with Johnny Depp, where they first poked at doing a live action. It was terrible. It was so bad. And it was during like the height of Johnny Depp and Pirates. They're like, oh, and he basically was Jack Sparrow in the movie. It was not very good. And there was like Anne Hathaway was in this. Like the cast was big, but the movie was blah. And that squeaked in at 49. 43 is the Aladdin remake. How dare you put Will Smith in Robin Williams' shoes? That was just not, that was a no for me, dog, to quote Randy Jackson. Number 22, the Beauty and the Beast remake. I don't get it. Hermione and CGI, like that was before we figured out that she's not that great of an actress as an adult. Um, and when she figured out that she didn't need to be a good actress as an adult because all the money she's making off her kid stuff was great. I don't like that I'm calling this one out, but it's number 9 and deserves to be called out. The Favreau live action Lion King, which is getting a sequel very shortly. Why is that number 9?
Kids plus the adults that love The Lion King. So I had a friend that said like, "Oh man, I love Lion King. It was my favorite movie." And this is when we were like 21, 22, and we're adult men at that point. And he said that, and I was just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, so very very chauvinistic and kind of like jock
It's very
type.
bro of you, dude. Very
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. And I was just like, get the fuck out of here. Come on, man. Like, oh, you want to go get milk and cookies with it too? Like, maybe take a nap? Like, no, sorry,
I
not for
mean
me.
that. I mean, basically, Lion King was like Macbeth, right? Like there was murder, and or was it Othello? I don't know, but there was murder and intrigue and betrayal. I mean, Lion King, low key, very well written and good movie. And you had the CD. I had the cassette soundtrack to that in my Talk Boy back in the day, bro.
Good for you. Good for
Oh,
you. That makes one of us.
mm.
So just as a reminder, I didn't get a whole lot of toys when I was younger, so I definitely didn't have a talk boy. But sure as shit wasn't listening to the Lion King soundtrack. Fuck that. Get out of here. Not me. Sorry, I'll stick to my bro tendencies, and that'll be a hill that I continue
You stick
to
to
die
your
on.
toxic shaming and toxic masculinity. You go ahead.
Your assumptions that everyone listened to it is just offensive to me.
Oh, that's one of the I would gather that that is in probably the top 10 movie soundtracks selling of all time.
Just because a lot, and just like this list, just because it is on that list and at the top doesn't mean it's for everyone. So that's all I'm saying.
Mm.
But I
Uh,
will say on the Beauty and the Beast remake, I don't know how big of a debate it was, but you start to realize that there's some things that should just remain in animation and not live action. You think like, huh, there's a little bit of a cringy bestiality thing going on here. So I don't know. That's just not me. That's not me either. So I totally endorse your reason why it's
mm,
on
yeah,
that list.
yeah, no. And for the record, number 10 all time, 15 million copies of the Elton John Tim Rice wonderful movie soundtrack to The Lion King.
What else is on that list, if you don't mind? Just go down the
Um,
list. I want to hear what's on the list.
uh, Lion King at 10, Bombay, which is a an Asian movie release. Number 8 is Flashdance. Um, Number 7's Purple Rain. Number 5, I can't pronounce it. It's another Bollywood film. Aashiqui. Though I will mispronounce many names, I will not like. I'm not even going to try to chew that one. Number 4 is
Just try it.
Grease.
Just
Nope.
Grease. Okay, I could see that.
Nope. Number 4 is Grease. Number 3 is Titanic. Number 2 is Saturday Night Fever, and number 1 with a sizable margin, with a $5 million mark, 5 million addition more copies sold than Saturday Night Fever, was the 1992. The only good thing about it was the soundtrack, Whitney Houston classic, The Bodyguard.
Okay, that was a good soundtrack. Yeah,
The
awful movie,
movie
but good
was weird.
soundtrack.
Kevin Costner had a ninja sword and never used it.
I will say that there was a really funny joke that, well, I thought it was funny. After Whitney Houston uh, died, I saw I can't I was pretty sure it was a friend of mine, and she posted on her Facebook like, "Damn it, Kevin Costner, he had one job," and that's all she wrote. I was like, "Holy shit, that's she is fucking hilarious." So that's
Well, it's funny you
uh
bring that up. Kevin Costner delivered a eulogy at her funeral.
did he?
That
Okay,
was
well, good for
very,
him.
like, it's on YouTube.
And it was fresh. Like it was within 20 minutes of it happening. And I I was number one shocked that Whitney Houston died. Two, just laughed hysterically because I'm like, damn, that girl's funny. I didn't think she had it in her, but she is. She's pretty damn funny. So you went over your number one, which is an amalgamation of movies, which I'm fine with because hey, hypocrisy is strong in our
Yeah,
lists.
buddy. Yeah,
But
my number one was 4 movies. So there's
yeah,
that.
exactly what a number one should be.
Yeah.
Four other. So mine is a little close to home for you. We have talked metric tons of shit about this movie, the director, and unfortunately, it's in the Star Wars realm, and it is The Last Jedi. The Last fucking Jedi. Last fucking time I'll see that movie again, I'll tell you. I'll be one of those guys to say not my Luke Skywalker. And hashtag, I want to bring this back up again. Hashtag Luke has no cardio. If he did have cardio, he wouldn't have died projecting his force self the other way. But yeah, he just got really tired and died. So for that reason, it's definitely number one on my list. I tried going back and watching it again and trying to point out the bright spots, and I couldn't.
I think that there's a universal disappointment in the sequels. Much like there was at one point a universal disappointment in the prequels. But as the prequels have aged, they've grown on people, and maybe the sequels will age well. But
Maybe.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this, about how that just with a few tweaks, these movies could have been so much better. And if Feige was the one that was leading Lucasfilm at the time, if he would have had a bigger role, I think that these could have been so much better. And it's basically 3 changes. Change number 1, Snoke is Thrawn. Change number 2, no First Order. It's just the Empire, because Thrawn was part of the Empire and they bring it back. And that's fine. That makes sense. It's not a new faction. And the connection from Thrawn to Palpatine works because Palpatine brought Thrawn into the fold. Thrawn could have been working to resurrect or keep Palpatine alive. That would have made total sense. And the last piece, which was part of The Last Jedi, is Luke needed, like, it wasn't Luke second guessing Kylo. That shouldn't have been the catalyst to that relationship breakdown. It should have been Kylo killing somebody that Luke loved, or like either a wife or
Yeah.
he had a kid or something like that. It should have been something there where Kylo was jealous of the affection that Luke gave this person. So he turned and it was and Luke still would have been the catalyst for it, but it would have been because of favoritism or whatever. That would have explained, and you could have wrote in the same split up between Han and Leia. It still could have been Han and Leia's kid. The whole thing would have just been a little more believable. Rey even makes sense as a clone of Palpatine, if that's the story. It's still it or as a whatever, because Thrawn would have been supporting it somehow. Like Rey, all of that can still make sense. Finn can be an old stormtrooper, not from the First Order, but from the Empire. Like all of it could still make sense. But the lack of believable parts, those few things that we latch onto, like Snoke, it just could have been better.
I'll just go like very superficial on this one. In addition to what you said, I agree. Now, I don't have the biggest knowledge base on Star Wars, but I have a general idea about Thrawn and him and everything just based off of our conversations and a
Mm-hmm.
few things that I've done for research myself. But maybe just retitling it to The Empire Strikes Back.
No,
Maybe. You've seen the clip of all the Star Wars movies that have the incorrect titles, but
they
yeah,
do.
maybe could have done,
Mm-hmm.
just something like that, like The Revenge of the Empire or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I didn't think that Luke was gonna die, but in hindsight, it's like, yeah, that's the Last Jedi. Like, really? Oh, God damn it! Luke Skywalker was the man. He was the best of everything, and then all of a sudden he just dies because he has poor cardio.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, they made
thank
him look
God.
like they made him look like a bitch.
Yeah,
And
thank God for the Mandalorian and bringing him back in. And then that is like totally redeeming for Luke because then I got to see badass Luke Skywalker. The only thing that I had against their portrayal of Luke in the sequel trilogy is the fact that Kylo, the first scene that you see Kylo, he did stuff that was way cooler than Luke ever did, and he stopped, the fucking laser blast. That was badass. That was so cool. It's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, holy shit, this guy's
Yeah,
a badass motherfucker. Luke does a couple of laps around the track. Actually, no, I take that back. Doesn't even do laps around the track. He takes a seat, gets tired, dies. Nah, nah, son. That's my number one on the worst.
no, I hear you. I hear you. And again, I have bias, so I can't choose Star Wars. But goddamn, those Disney movies. I'm glad they were on both of our thought processes.
I'm
But
surprised that none of the Fast and the Furious movies ended up on your
I
list.
didn't want to get into an argument with you about them because I'll be candid. I stopped watching after they went through the Mexican drug tunnels. I was done
Fair
there.
enough. Fair
And I
enough.
think
Though
that
that
was like 5 movies ago.
So after the Mexican drug tunnel one, there was a stretch of
Mhm.
two movies that was really good, and after that, it just became entertaining and ridiculous. So I wasn't like I'm not going to hate on it, but I totally understand why someone would. So just surprised that that wasn't on your list.
I have been considering a Fast and the Furious full watch solely because of Christopher Nolan's professed love. And I'm
He
like,
did say that, right?
yeah, he said it on Colbert or something like that. But I'm like, is that just for the first few? Like he mentioned Tokyo Drift and stuff like that. I'm like, that might be the most underrated of all of them. Um, I think Tokyo Drift might be a better movie than any of the movies we talked about today.
Ooh,
Um,
maybe.
I mean, it's close. It's damn close. That being said, I love watching movies. I love watching big budget movies, and I hope to continue watching stuff that makes this list. And hopefully one day all of the movies we talked about will be off this list. But hopefully they won't be replaced by more trash.
Well, until then, I'll continue to watch movies. You will too. We'll continue to do this podcast. We're 2+ years going strong. Haven't missed a week. But until next time, this is Dan the Part Time Adventurer. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Don't forget, like, subscribe, and send us your biggest hater list from the top 50 grossing of all time and any other things you want to know that we can rank or talk about. We're down. We love some audience participation. And thank you for those that do leave those comments, that subscribe, and that are those regular listeners. We appreciate you.
We're hip. We're with it. Oh, see y'all next time.
Moving forward with just the two of us.